Vichy?
Very happy to have you.
Yeah.
Hi, nice to see you both.
D4, you know, of course, that Gabriel is playing D4, so it was not a big thing for you.
You didn't
No,
even ask.
but I couldn't be sure. Sometimes they play C4, and you know.
Yes. With us, of course, as you know, Viswanathan Anand, Vichy. First question. Some continental championship before. Do you recall some event this type, maybe? In
No,
Asia?
no. When I needed to qualify for anything, we had zonals. We didn't have continental
championships.
Continental events. There was no Asian championship in those days. I played the zonal tournament to qualify for that, but I played one. And yeah, so this is a tournament where I don't have a record.
Yeah, and later you didn't need to qualify.
Exactly.
Yeah. And this type of tournament, with massive tournament, 400 players, you played some opens, I recall, maybe Qatar or something. What was the
I played Gibraltar, I played Isle of Man a couple of times, but 400 is large. I think I've played it in the faster time controls. I don't remember in classical having played with so many.
Yeah. Okay. We are so glad. I believe, Lena, you shared that the same thing. That we are so happy that you are around.
We are really happy.
Yeah.
I'm proud.
Thank you.
We will touch some games. Now you are involved a little bit more also in European events. You played in European Club Cup. Now visiting this event. My question, and probably yours, have you been here before? In Eforie North or this part of Romania?
No, I have been around a bit. So Cluj, Iași, Bucharest, but not specifically to Eforie North. I've not been to the coast. In fact, I don't think I've hit the Black Sea coast from this side before.
Only Batumi, maybe Georgia.
Yes, Batumi, Sochi, and
Turkey.
I think even Turkey, probably yes.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, we should, maybe of course you know some players. You played versus Ivanchuk, Ponomariev. I don't know about others, but I can guess that at least 10-15 players you already played in your career. You are involved, as I mentioned, in Romanian chess. Now a little bit more. SuperChess Club. Jordan is playing here. He is your club teammate. Yeah. Do you these days? Do you have time to follow the games?
Yes, I do follow them, but the problem is not that I don't have time, but there are too many games simply. There's so many games to follow, and if you skim through them, you miss details, and if you start spending time on each one to really understand what's going on, then like today I wanted to scan through some of the recent games, but then one game actually of Blue Bong. While I was scrolling through fast, I suddenly thought, wait a minute, why is Black's king hiding in the back? So then I stopped. Then I realized it was a very interesting endgame, what he played with Pansulaya. But then I realized that I had not seen as many games I'd wanted to. So that's always the trade-off. Do you go through a lot of them, or do you look at one or two? And then I stepped out onto the balcony, and guess who walks into the hotel? Vasily. Wow. So he had gone for a walk. He had his typical jacket, but then he was carrying something in his hand, which I understood to be a thicker jacket, and that he had maybe overcalculated for this trip because he was carrying it in his hands. I mean, it was already kind of getting warm. I went out for a walk in the morning at about 8, and then it was quite pleasant. I wish I'd gone even earlier, but Vasily was strolling out then. And,
actually yesterday was a really tough day for him. I don't recall that he had lost in similar manner for a while.
He was really sad.
He was mated versus Rothstein. It was really this Catalan, close Catalan.
I know, but it's quite sophisticated what Maxim did.
We can even show you have touch. You can touch screen, so we can touch this game a bit. So wish you can take charge now. So you can touch screen, so you can maybe.
Yeah, so we'll
Password.
get to this point. And basically this is a well-known idea. They play a5 so that the bishop is defended, the pawn is already you can undermine with a4 and all that, but we can say that e5 knight e8, and this looks very good, except b5 exactly as Vasily played is a big threat. So a4, knight c7, rook d1, rook h6, bishop b2, rook b8, and now very nice move, knight d2, because white is reacting to black. After rook b8, black is ready to play b5,
Mm-hmm.
and white is prepared for that with this move.
Mm-hmm.
Because the bishop needs to cover that square. And Vasily kind of innocently went b5. And the thing about b5 is it's quite strong unless white has stopped it. So I'm surprised that Vasily kind of sailed through this. He did cb5, which is a mistake because he can still do this and slow it down, and then the tension doesn't break so fast. But instead he did this. And the thing is, I think white would be worse almost if he couldn't take. In fact, it seems that it's not as bad as I thought, but my feeling was, black has got this big break, and it's only because of this move that it doesn't work. And so that was a very nice model game, if you like, in this position. So
Yeah, one wrong move and suddenly,
Everything
Yes.
fell apart.
yeah, and then he was just losing in few moves. Yeah, but the
Mhm.
concept was. But this is typical, as you mentioned. In previous day, he would just find an energy to dig deeper, and this won't happen. These days, you're playing more on the feeling, but sometimes it can backfire. Okay, let's check today's games. I don't know if you have anything specific, or we can stroll
no,
around.
because of the delay, I was watching in the room, but because of the delay, I didn't have. I saw very little. So
Okay, let's
have a look around.
yeah.
Let's dig deeper.
So you can go backwards or whatever. So this is typical stuff.
Yeah. These days, the fashion is to give this isolated pawn. I don't mean sacrifice it. I mean to accept it, keep it as black. All sorts of semi-tarashes and so on. There are lots of openings where black shows that there's very little risk in the position. So the idea used to be that white could blockade this pawn with a knight or some piece and then slowly pile up. But nowadays it seems this sort of thing doesn't. You don't have time anymore. And I think Matthias is probably quite satisfied with what he's got.
I mentioned that better that Spassky played it first, like Tarash, then
Yes.
Gary started to play versus Karpov, and then it sort of disappeared. Like this Tarash setup, as you mentioned, now everyone is playing it again.
Yes. Also, it must be said that even Spassky's to some degree and Kasparov's Tarash, because they played it similarly, though Gary's version was more sophisticated, it came many decades later, is not how you play the Tarash these days. So many new resources are there that, for instance, I don't think in Gary's time you followed up with h5, h4 very quickly.
Yeah.
Put a pawn on h3 and so on. Now all that is part of the Tarash. So it's become a very, very dynamic opening. I'm guessing that white can keep a small edge here, but it should not be very much.
Yeah.
And clearly for Matthias, a draw is a very good result. So he's very satisfied with not taking big risks today, because why should he?
He's aiming for it,
qualified.
though, I think.
Yeah, but also Gabriel likes to play sometimes this kind of position with white.
Yes, he has good technique, but sometimes you need a position as well. So
Yes. Technique plus position.
technique plus
If
position
one
would be
thing
great.
is missing. Okay, let's check Yufa and Tari, because they're usually playing more entertaining stuff out of the opening. How about this one, Rishi?
This is more exciting because even though the position is completely closed, it means also that there will be no great simplification. And already I think something like bishop h3 I don't know if I want to play a4 first or not, for both sides. My opinion is if bishop h3, I would like to play a4. And if white plays a4, then I don't get to exchange bishops with bishop h3. But this can be a very long game. Imagine the king can castle here on c1. It can castle here potentially on g1. But also you could play a4 and put your king on this square. And just leave it on b3. So in a completely closed position, you have different setups. So imagine that white walks his king to the queen side. And then slowly, with all his pieces, tries to push f4 and then f5 and then g4 and make progress there. That can be interesting. But in fact, the progress will be so slow that black's king can also walk to the queen side. And there'll be all these massive rearrangements of pieces and so on.
Who would you rather be here, black or white?
I guess I would rather be white.
Yeah. More space?
But if I was black, I could also hope that my opponent overextends himself. So it's kind of, it's not like, it's easy for white. But with black, you're only reacting. So I prefer to be white for that reason.
Yeah, but engine will always say it's plus for white, but
yeah.
Nothing tangible, but yeah.
Also, if black did want to play a4, he could have done it here and then played knight b7. So I assume a4 is not part of his plan today. So.
Okay, so let's say fast forward. Do you think that the king will land on b3, or what do you expect from this game to happen? h4, bishop h3, or not?
Yes, king to b3, some h4, bishop h3, and put a knight on g2. Put a bishop on c1, put a rook on f1, rook on g1, and then you're ready for f4. Almost nothing black can do can stop it at that stage, because I'll have 4 pieces in the area. And then, but f4, and then what? If you take, nothing happens. So then you still have a plan of pushing forward, pushing the g-pawn, all these things. I think this is a long game. White
do you recall
will definitely try for some time.
Do you recall some of your games when you were like preparing, an opponent was preparing, that kind of, maybe something by heart, that you have similar type of game where things were blocked and you were like maneuvering forever and then some breakthrough happened? Do you recall one of your games maybe?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'll have to think. But there must be many Railopuses.
Reluctant, huh?
But in the Railopus, there was some tension on the queen side, and still I was playing for this f4. So a couple of, I mean, if you look at my Breyer, the times I played against the Breyer, for sure there'll be some examples. I mean, I had one game with Van der Sterren pops up, but it was not as close as this. We already had an open, I played f4 takes, so there was a little bit of dynamism left in that thing.
Got it.
I don't remember a completely closed version now.
Yeah, because it's not so common. I'm trying to guess one of my games.
Maybe it's more common in the King's Indian.
Yeah. For example,
Because then when these things, I think in Rapid Chess I have played some games where Rapid and Blitz even where I had this pawn structure, c5, d4, e5 against c4, d4. But yeah.
Okay, it will be a long game. Let's check the next one. Okay, here, of course, you can tell us a lot of things.
Yeah.
How Vasily said that marriage is like a poisoned pawn. Najdorf, he was greeting the couple and newest like there was a wedding and
is
then
that true?
yeah they said that they recognized him and then he wanted to say something and he said that marriage is like playing Najdorf Sicilian poison pawn variation. And everyone started laughing. And then
He is laughing. Yeah.
that was about it. So I'm always having this small small association because
fact,
this is so complicated. This Najdorf poison pawn. Yeah.
Yes. Again, the only really interesting thing is that Queen d3 happened instead of Queen d2, because Queen d2 is very similar lines. You will, in fact, this is quite well known. Bishop e7, f e6. Bishop e6 is known with the queen on d2. And there are some forced draws, and the basic idea is black develops out. In fact, if you don't play bishop e6, bishop e7 is a mistake. There. because exactly here, if you had played fe6, then I would simply drag the bishop to the square.
Mhm.
Remember, what I'm talking about, the queen's on d2, so bishop
Mhm.
c4 would be unpleasant. Though even that, everything you have to say, evaluations are more mixed. But this, and I would guess knight b d7, and it's probably equalish. I wonder why he didn't play fe6 though. This would have been what you can do, because the disadvantage of queen d3 is the bishop is not coming to c4. And maybe fe6 is just inaccurate, but Rothstein would normally know his theory.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I'm wondering what he has in mind.
I was mentioning this movie Album 61 about Boris Gelfand and his match against you in Moscow,
Mhm.
or championship. Maxim was Boris second
correct,
at that
second.
time, right? So of course you are aware of his qualities as a second and theoretician.
While we're analyzing, I have a question, because it's a popular nowadays, we all have engines, and then me personally, everybody else, my friends from chess, we all use engines while watching some games. Do you use engine? You're a chess pro, you kind of don't even need it once, analyze games.
No, we need it. I mean, unless you've got that concentration that you have at the board, you're not spotting everything quite so easily. But if you use an engine, it's like
Everything looks simpler.
no, it's like watching a game. It's like watching a research paper. You're not watching the game because you're experiencing nothing.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And I think that's the big disadvantage of using engines, is that you don't understand anything the participants are going through. Sometimes I find what is nice is in many places they'll give you this option. Even here you can just switch on the analysis, switch off the analysis,
Mhm.
leave the evaluation bar,
Mhm.
and then this bar to the left will jump up and down. In fact, it does it here. So now you imagine you switch off the analysis and you watch, and the moment this goes up, you try and figure out what
and why.
what changed, and rather why it's changed. And this is fascinating because then you get to experience everything. Every once in a while you'll reach a position, the engine will say that you're now +2 up, but no one will see why. And then everyone is struggling to find out, and we are struggling in the position. And then you understand that the human evaluation is maybe better for black, but the computer evaluation is much better for white. Because it's much easier to go wrong for humans, and so on. You experience the game in a different way. That said, certainly sometimes I switch on the engine when I'm too lazy to
Of course.
work, and when I'm ready to work, then I enjoy it without engines. And I think that's part of the joy.
Good to know.
Yeah, sometimes when I enter to the playing court, I sense the tension much better, because when I'm watching online, even here in the studio, and then I go to the playing hall and I get this reminiscence how tough is when you're sitting there and you're fighting.
Yeah.
Because behind the screen it looks a little bit like too easy, I would say. But
Yes.
when you go there and then you see how
They're sweating, you know,
and
they're
it's fight,
pushing
it's
a lot.
duel, it's really tough. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, we should check a little bit more. Maybe there's some game which drives your
Which is
attention.
super fun.
Jordan played, you know him very well. So he's playing Philidor. Have you
Mhm.
played that opening? Probably never with the black piece.
I played a version of it against Rapport, but we got to it from a 4 nights.
Today is his birthday, by the way.
Rapport, okay.
Fun fact.
Really?
Yeah, fun fact.
Yep.
Yeah, I got to it from a 4 nights where he made some random move A4. I thought, why play some sideline? I went D6, he went D4, and we reached a Philidor. But you're right, I have not played the Philidor much.
Yeah, but with the white pieces, I believe.
With the white pieces, certainly I
Yeah.
played against
Against
the
it,
Philidor.
So, Jordan is playing, I think also he played it 2 rounds ago. So somehow he wants to play versus theoreticians. By the way, Shakma Mejarov is here. I don't know, do you know this? He's working with Yagis Khan, with their dogmas.
Yeah,
But he wants to be low profile a bit.
Yes, in fact, he's the first person I saw in
Yeah.
Eforie Nord.
How?
I got into the
Where?
car yesterday. There he was on the side, and so.
So the
believe it.
average rating was
You
quite
just
high.
you just bought 27 plus.
Yeah, It's just first person I saw was Shaq. So
You know that famous story when there was this British league and you could know the pairings only 5 minutes before, and then Swidler came only to play one weekend, and he knew that he will play against Korchnoi. And then Korchnoi was walking, and then Swidler needed to hide behind the tree. So, so he was hiding behind the tree, and then tomorrow came at the board playing E4 versus Victor.
Surprising.
Yeah, so no need to hide this day. So something about this position. I know that Nagy was when he was, I don't know, sort of finishing with active play. He wrote those books, and he was touching some topics like revealing. And I know that Philidor, for some players like on my level 25-50, this analysis against Philidor was quite useful at that time. I think it was like 7 years ago, 10 years ago, something like that. So I think he was touching this line.
can we just see how they got here? 1 second. Yeah. Okay, so just this way. Head 6 I was not very familiar with. Okay, bishop e3. Okay.
So how viable is Philidor from 1 to 10, Vishi?
Okay, I think the point is sometimes they take with the queen. But if you take with the knight, black has a nice trick, which is d5, e5, and simply knight b6.
To consolidate position.
So that's the piece normally you would capture with the knight, but here you had to capture the bishop. I don't know, white can play a5. Black will probably play bishop e6. And I don't know, maybe I would play queen d3 or something, but I suspect it's not too much for white here because these positions are very solid. You can try to maintain the e5 point at all costs, but you can also just play bishop e6, queen c7 and play d5 slowly. It'll take a lot of skill to stop that with white.
Okay, maybe a few more. Do you want to check any particular game, particular player?
Maybe Ivanchuk game or something like that, or Ponomarev
Or for example this, you know a lot about this kind of things. Šarić is playing with the white pieces. Probably slightly better for white, or?
Again, it's funny how these things change. Now we are in a Berlin because the bishop didn't come to d6 from c5, it came to d6 from e7, so the tempi cancel out. Except black is a tempo up because the pawn is on a6, not on a7. And otherwise these structures were tried a lot. He's got knight b3, and nowadays it became fashionable to put the knight on a5 in some lines and so on. b6, queen e2, then he decided to go a5 as well. There are subtleties everywhere. I think if you go a5, maybe it's queen e1. Yeah, but I don't see the point. I'll just play a4 unless you really want to go knight a5 or something. Seems hard.
Maybe it's possible, knight a5, yeah, you mentioned.
For the moment it's possible. I'll go queen b8 or something, but then you can play b4 and you keep it there for a while. Or you do it like this. And then if you do this, you bring the queen out and you put the knight back like this. So something like that. But he just went b6. So queen e2, a5, knight g5. This should be slightly surprising. I can go bishop g4 and then what does he want? Ivan, f3. But if f3, then what do I want to do? Go back to a8 or something?
Yeah, but if you go back, what is then?
Here.
The next step? Oh, yeah, somewhere.
So I go f4. But then I cannot take because of e5. I can play
a4 now, yeah.
Well, what to do? I have to come here, and now you can take this pawn, but I'll get it back anyway, very soon.
Okay, check and h6.
You're going to King's Gambit it.
I don't know. Works
It's
or not?
true. You can play this.
Yeah.
But it's double-edged enough.
Yeah.
I can go
Going
d4,
back probably. Yeah.
and then put the knight here,
Yeah.
and then rook d1, and make it exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay, interesting position. I'm curious why. If we get back to the
Yeah. You
current
can go
position.
to the game. Or
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, bishop
Definitely.
g4 f3.
Bishop h5 probably is not the move. Probably not.
Not really, but now let's try this again. I go a4. For
Mhm.
fe5, maybe ab3 is the point. Ah, no. Because
Okay,
I
not
can
clear.
just
maybe.
take this
Yeah.
and it's quite huge. Even if I do this, you just play bishop f4. Oh, even e5 is just very strong. Yeah. Okay. But this is quite strong. Because also I have this threat.
Mhm.
So you have to come here. Yes, and I take this pawn and I can live with it.
Yeah, and probably they will end up in that line we mentioned. Šarić wants to play that kind of position.
Very sharp.
Yeah. But bishop, because if I go here, white can do this, and
Uh-huh.
I think
Okay, but then this regular stuff, 97 f6 also. But yeah.
Different styles. We
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah.
As Giga
But it seems that black is basically doing okay, and it's just a question of how they play this from now.
Let's check. Lena mentioned Ivanchuk or maybe Ponomarev. When was the last time you played versus Ruslan? Not.
I played
so
him, I
recently,
played
I
him in a
believe.
Bundesliga 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
22.
And, I
And
had
maybe
played
some Leon Rapids or something. No.
Leon Rapids, my God, I played him 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
No,
Wow.
19 years ago or something I played him there.
Really? We should-
But not that often.
Okay, this is also a typical thing, huh?
Yes, white has got this this pawn thing over here, sort of compressing black. But so black's only way out is this, follow up with this, and then allow the bishop to go there. But some of these things turn out slow, and I can also push this pawn and so on. So seems like a pleasant version for white.
Yeah. Yeah, I really cannot, you know, of course, much better. I really cannot estimate how big is that.
I think this comes under the category of it's pleasant to play.
Yeah,
Which you can say anytime you don't understand the position, you just say it's pleasant to play, and you know who's gonna argue with you. But it might be true here.
You know, how was Vichy in the chess format before? So
Unclear.
Unclear, yes, unclear.
Unclear.
But unclear.
And you don't
It's
want
complicated.
To, yeah, you don't want to bother, and you will burn some 2 hours, and then
Unclear is enough.
But it can be lost.
Unclear means my alarm went off. I have to go and take something out of the oven, or
Yeah, then I'll go back.
take something off the stove, and that's what unclear used to mean.
You
I
do
don't know
it-
what it means these days.
You do it yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. At some point you think, okay, the hell with it. That's enough.
Were
They
you-
can work this out for themselves. But
Were you analyzing a lot your games in chess format or something like that?
yes, it was a very big deal. I mean, when I was a teenager, it was a big honor to be in. You have your games in chess and format.
Novelty. Top
I know,
novelty.
to put some
Ooh.
novelty and so on. And
Feels
then
nice.
later on, of course, I regularly annotated games for them, but I haven't done so in quite a while. But
Not like Dr. Hibner, I believe, yeah?
no, I was more detailed, but nothing compared to Dr. Hubner.
Yeah.
In fact, I think Informant couldn't publish his games because they would need multiple editions if they published his games. But it was an honor. In fact, in my very first Olympiad, I told my mother, and that man is a very important man. His name is Milutin Kostic. He's a big shot in Chess Informant and so on. And then my mother went around the hall and found him and said, my son would love to publish a game in your magazine. Will you take it? Okay, what can he do if my mother asks? So Milutin immediately said yes. Of course, tell him to send the game and we'll publish it. And then my mother told me, I asked that man and he said he'll publish another game. I was so embarrassed because
what was the
imagine
game?
your mother going and asking Milutin, will you publish a game of my son? But it was very nice.
Do you recall the game maybe?
Yes, it was from the Olympiad. It was against Jean Hebert, I think. And I would have published another game, but unfortunately I blundered a piece in some silly tactic. So otherwise that game would have been even better.
PT. Let's check 2 games. Let's check Ivanchuk.
20 seconds.
20 seconds. Thanks, Lena, for that. So, how is Vasily doing? I believe you played those things. Normal position for white, normal position for black.
But complex.
I'm usually playing with the black pieces, but...
What do you do with this bishop?
The thing is, white d4 is both a strong threat, but also a plan for black. Black can pile on it. One thing I could do is to start with queen c7, because then I'm attacking this pawn. If you go queen e2, then your piece is a bit cluttered here. But if you play d4, suddenly I'm thinking I take, you take, and I go knight b4. And
sometimes rook e3 is an answer in those positions, but I don't know.
Yes, I also don't know. I mean, if I go queen c2, then you have to move your queen somewhere. You can't go to f1 because of bishop a6. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe this doesn't work now.
I mean, I could come back here or something, but
Unpleasant.
I don't know what other move is there. Maybe queen f1 is the move actually. I mean queen e1. But then if I go here,
the queen is
you have to go to f1.
Yeah.
And then I go here. And then simply knight e1.
Simply?
Yeah, it's,
Not for our audience.
It's a bit complicated. I'm trying to. Probably it's not the only one.
Yeah. I mean, it looks close, but it's all very forcing. It seems rook e3 is almost only move, and then I have to do this. Then
Queen e1
is slightly worse, but
queen
e1
e1,
is
yeah.
possible.
Yeah. So this is the position. Queen c7, the best move, probably.
Yeah.
You mentioned queen e2, a bit clumsy, so maybe bishop
Ooh la
a6.
la, the computer wants to go g5. That is
G5.
crazy.
Wow.
That is crazy. Because I didn't think it was necessary to panic like that. But maybe white's plan is just a knight to f1 and then move the h pawn and then go like this to this square. So, I mean, if white is aiming for this square, then...
Maybe f6 a little bit more traditional way, if it works. Now
yes, but then these pawns are not so... I mean, the computer isn't giving a big advantage here, but I play F6 only when nothing else works.
Yeah.
Got it.
I play it when a lot of things works. Maybe just to check our
Our
Fast
chat
and
is
Furious.
on fire,
Yeah,
by the
Fast and
way.
Furious. Our Giga Cooperaze. I want to touch this topic. I don't know if you're familiar with that player.
Giga Cooperazzi.
Cooperazzi, yeah.
And
Yes.
he's really,
So
really
he's
speedy
the
chess.
one you can check the situation on clock.
It's always like
And
that.
I mentioned that in your junior age you were like super fast, but I'm not sure that you were like blitzing like Giga is doing, because in all his games he's having a big advantage on clock and more than he started.
In my teenage years, this is too much time. I would have managed all this in 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I was saying to Lena,
But my teenage years were even before increment.
before increment.
Yeah. So then it made sense also, because you're actually
Yeah, and
trying.
why you changed and what
When is it-
happens?
yeah. When is
to
the time
change
to
this? I
change?
said that you started
Once
to
100 times you throw away one ending because you refuse to stop and work it out, and my game with Beliavsky in Linares, for instance, still makes me angry even to think of that position.
Even now.
Things like that, of course. Because had I won that game, I would have been 3 out of 3 instead of blundering in one move. It was a lot of mistakes and then a big blunder anyway. But enough times these things happen and you realize that sometimes you feel very good also, that you stop, spend 20 minutes, find the right move and play it. You feel very good afterwards. There's no extra points for finishing fast. So
It's like
you-
maturing in chess.
Hmm?
Getting mature in chess maybe.
Well, sometimes thinking more is also a sign of indecision. It's not necessarily maturity. It's again something you have to train properly. With many people, they keep thinking because they can't make up their mind what move they want to make. You always have a choice, right? But you can't make up your mind. And so thinking can be a sign of maturity, but also a sign of lack of confidence. So
Overthinking.
yes, and on the other side, playing fast can be confidence and blah blah blah, but it can also be betray nervousness.
Yes.
You can't take the tension, so you want to make your move and get it over with. So there are lots of aspects. I think when it's mixed with psychology, it's trickier to say it's a mistake or not.
I said to Lena that there is a small possibility, because you always have these witty answers, that you will say I started to play team events. That maybe that was an answer when you start thinking a bit, because when it's like individual, but in team events, when you see some like a teammate.
That's an interesting theory, but
I was joking. Yeah.
No, I understand, but I don't think I actually played that many team events back in the day. But anyway.
Yeah. So what's the case here? It seems to me that he's doing quite well.
Yes, there's no particular problem for black. But maybe there hasn't been for quite some time. The position itself is very equal. I just play bishop d6, exchange everything, and it's a comfortable position. So.
Yeah, I mentioned also before that these days it's really hard to focus on something. Before you would know, like semi-Slav, I don't know, Botanic variation, anti-Moscow variation, maybe Najdorf poison pong. But these days it's really hard to understand where to start, where to focus, because if you focus too much on the main line, suddenly you will get those kind of things.
Yes.
On the side.
And the sidelines have a lot of venom. So.
Because also, I don't know, some theoreticians before, they would just enter all the main lines. I don't know, like you, like Shirov, maybe some others, but these days it's really hard to say.
Yeah. These things come and go out of fashion.
Vishy, you want to add something? Anything?
I want to say that the audience are crazy for
Mhm.
Vishy. They said that Vishy is like an engine, and they love you. You're in top 3 of from their favorite chess player ever. So very nice. They love
Thank
you.
very much. Well,
As if I can expect.
I'm happy. I'm happy if they enjoy my commentary and my
Of
presence.
course they do.
So.
Of course they do.
You just came from Cyprus?
Yes, we were there for the Women's Grand Prix, but also FIDE used the chance to have a lot of its board meetings, discuss a lot of matters, which then further either been thought through and either implemented or not. So lots of that kind of work as well.
This is the European event, but of course we are eager, or viewers are eager to hear a little bit about chess in India currently, because it's now with Gukesh.
It's flourishing.
So how is, maybe now it's a little bit, I would say the wave is not so as high as immediately after the World Championship match, but how is the situation currently?
Of course, the impact is there, and people remember that he is world champion and all that. But as you say, it's already 3 months, 3.5 months since he became world champion. So people move on, and at the moment, till the next big series of events, Vaikanse was also a very big deal. Tata Steel was a very big deal. Lots of people are following, especially because there was a race between our boys, Gukesh and Prag.
Tiebreak,
And
it
that
was
was
really
really exciting. And finished in this tiebreak after both of them lost their games and so on. So that was a moment where, even people I don't normally hear from, you're getting WhatsApp messages from them, and my classmates were putting it in their groups and so on. So when there's something big going on, there's a lot of interest, but right now it's quiet.
Okay, you can rest a bit, because I believe many interviews
Yes.
happen. Okay, Vishy, about your next plans? Something you have specific already planned?
A bit, yes. So I will play in Baku in end of April, and after that I'm switching to some commentary. So I'll be in Austria, I will be in Norway chess and so on. I'm visiting Valencia.
Very
So
nice.
May is a lot of travel, but also things
Beautiful
I look forward
places.
to. And then in June maybe I start playing a little bit again. I'll play in Leon. So kind of there.
Okay, nice. Yeah, once again, thanks for joining
Thank you.
us, and good luck with everything you do in future.
Of course,
Yeah,
good luck
thanks
and
a
thank
lot.
you so much.
Okay, guys.